Ollie is pretty used to dealing with, supernatural stuff. But he doesn't get a whole lot of supernatural creatures as clients. But this time, that's exactly what it was. Ollie was at his office, and he heard a knock, and he thought it was a knock at the door. So he went to open the door, but there was nobody there. And so he went back to his desk, kind of confused, and he heard the knock again, and he went to the door again, and there was nobody there. And then he went back and sat down on his desk, and he heard a knock, and this time there was also a shouting, like, "Herb, not window." So I looked over, and there at the window was a fairy. Only one word for it is a fairy. It was a little person, maybe about, I don't know, 10 inches tall or so. Had wings, sort of sparkled. Was dressed in like pretty normal clothes, I guess. Yeah. And so I went over and opened up the window, and the fairy came flying in. I said, "Hey, sorry, it's hard. Doors are hard for me. Hard to turn the knobs." And I said, "No problem, no problem. What can I do for you?" And the fairy sat down in the chair across from Ollie's desk, and Ollie went over to his chair and sat down. He said, "Well, I've been robbed. Somebody stole my wand, my magic wand. And it's kind of a big deal, because I can do some magic without the wand, but the wand helps me focus the magic, and I'm just not at all practiced at trying to do magic without a wand, and fairies doing magic is kind of our whole thing, so I need the wand." And yeah, somebody stole it from me, and I don't even know where to start. I said, "All right, what makes you think it's stolen?" And the fairy said, "Oh, well, I mean, it wasn't like ambiguous about that. This masked human ran up to me on the street, snatched it out of my hand, and ran away. And I mean, normally I'm faster than a running human, but I was just so shocked. I got confused. I didn't know what to do, and so I just sort of floated there for too long, and they got away. And I started to chase, but by that time they had too much of a lead, and they got away. So I said, all right, well, let's start there. What can you tell me about the person? I said, well, I think it was a man, from the way that they moved and the way that their body looked. But they had like a balaclava on, like a ski mask. They were not that big, but not small. I mean, they were like 5'10" or so, and kind of muscular. And they had blue eyes. I saw that clearly. I said, all right, what were they wearing other than the ski mask? Oh yeah, so he was wearing like running shoes, black and white running shoes, and some like fatigues, like cargo pants. And then he was like two t-shirts. It was a long sleeve t-shirt, and then he had another t-shirt on over that. And the long sleeve t-shirt, I think, was light gray, and that t-shirt on top was blue, and there was some sort of logo on the front, but I didn't recognize it. That part happened too fast. I said, no, that's good. That's a lot of information. So we can start figuring out who that might be. Well, let me ask, what does it mean for a fairy not to have their wand? First I said, it's a big deal. I mean, for one thing, like I said, it's harder to do magic, and doing magic is what we do. Even just to get food on the table, I got to do magic. Well, I mean, I can cook my food without magic. Well, without the wand, anyway. Point is, it's a big hassle. It's really hard to just operate a day-to-day life as a fairy without your wand. And it's also kind of embarrassing, It's like not having pants. I said, all right. So, is there anybody, Ollie said, that would want to hurt you? And the fairy said, oh, I hadn't thought of it like that. Yeah. Yeah, Jimmy the Gnome. Jimmy the Gnome hates me.
Who's that?
It's a character we're going to meet. So, yeah, just stay put. I said, all right, Jimmy the Gnome, do you have contact information for him? I said, oh, it's a girl, actually, but yes, I know where they live, and I have their phone number. I can give all that to you. I said, all right. Anybody else? I said, no, other than that, I don't really have, like, enemies. Just really just Jimmy. She hates me. It goes way back. I said, what do you mean it goes way back? I said, well, I mean, back when we were both younger, we dated, and it ended badly. I was kind of a jerk, honestly, and you know, she wasn't very nice about it either, and then we keep on crossing paths. We've got a lot of friends in common, so it's just been like an open wound for years. So yeah, she'd rather have me out of the scene. I said, do gnomes do magic? The fairy said, yeah, it's a different kind of magic that they do. I don't know if a gnome could be very effective using a fairy wand. Gnomes don't really use wands, but I don't know, maybe. Maybe she wanted to try a wand and thought maybe she could hurt me and get to try a wand at the same time. I don't know, that's just a theory, but I said, I can look into that theory. That's interesting. So they talked for a little bit longer, but it wasn't anything not that consequential. And then Ollie decided he'd go and pay a visit to Jimmy the Gnome. And he knocked on the door, and then Jimmy answered. And she was, you know, a gnome. She was smaller than a human, maybe 3'4" or so. Very pretty. Had short brown hair and blazing red eyes. And had kind of greenish skin. I said, hi, are you Jimmy the Gnome? She said, oh yeah, I'm Jimmy. What's going on? I said, well, I'm investigating, my name is Ollie the Octopus. I'm a private eye, and I'm investigating the theft of a fairy's wand. She said, oh, I don't know anything about that, but, you know, I'll do what I can to help, I guess. What does it have to do with me? I said, well, the fairy that got the wand stolen is your ex-boyfriend. And she rolled her eyes and said, oh, really? And she thinks that it was me, or he thinks that it was me, huh? Ollie shrugged and said, he thought that you would be the most likely to know, well, that if anybody wanted to get him, that it might be you. She laughed. That guy, he thinks I'm still in love with him after all these years. He thinks that I sit around and think all day long about ways to get back at him. I don't. I moved on years ago. If anybody's trying to get that fairy, you ought to talk to Wilson the Sprite about this. I don't have anything to do with this. I don't know I don't know what. Yeah, no. Last thing I would do is try and get more mixed up with my ex-boyfriend. I said, so, Wilson the Sprite. She said, yeah. He may have told her that he doesn't have any enemies other than me, and honestly, I wouldn't call myself his enemy. But anyway, Wilson the Sprite really doesn't like him either. What's the difference between a sprite and a fairy? Oh, well, Sprites are smaller, they don't use wings, and they tend to be more mischievous. But it's a totally different species. I said, okay, cool, thanks. So Ollie went and talked to Wilson the Sprite. And the thing that kept on nagging at Ollie's mind was that neither Jimmy the Gnome nor Wilson the Sprite were, humans. And it was a human, or at least a human-sized creature that had taken the wand. But nonetheless, he was following the leads that he had, so he went and talked to Wilson the Sprite. Wilson said, that stupid fairy, man. Yeah, I don't like him. We've fought on a number of occasions. I'm surprised that he didn't think of me first, but I didn't have anything to do with taking his wand. I don't need a wand. Well, I said, well, yeah, but, if you're just trying to get back at somebody, it's not necessarily that you would want the wand, but maybe you just didn't want him to have his wand. The guy said, yeah, I mean, I can see that, but no. No, a sprite's magic is a lot more powerful than a fairy's magic. If I wanted to get back at him, I'd just get back at him. I mean, getting mischief magic is a sprite's whole thing. So if I wanted to do mischief, I wouldn't. Besides, it's a human that you're looking for. I said, yeah, I've been thinking about that. I mean, anybody could have hired some random human to steal the wand, but yeah. And Wilson said, that fairy thinks he doesn't have any enemies, but there's a lot of people that get mad at him. He's not a terrible guy. I just really don't get along with him. Anyway, the point is, somebody that really doesn't like that guy is John Norman. I said, John Norman? Who's that? John Norman is a shopkeeper. A real kind of a grumpy guy. I don't actually like him either. But he and your client, they get into arguments all the time. Your client lives in the apartment above this guy's shop. And he's always complaining that stray magical spells are, hitting his customers and his merchandise and stuff. I don't know if I believe it, because even kind of a schmuck like your client, when they have their wand, anyway, it's not that hard to make your spells hit the things you want them to hit. But, yeah, no, I'd go talk to Norman. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to follow the leads I have. So I went and talked to Norman. And, well, as soon as Ollie went into the door, he saw Norman holding a wand. And he was pointing it at a bottle of clear liquid. It was a water bottle. It still said Deer Park on the side. And as Ollie looked, the guy pointed the wand to the bottle, seemed to kind of focus and squint, and a little zap of light went from the wand to the bottle. And then he opened it up and took a little careful taste, and then spat it out. Oh, that's terrible. Oh, that's really bad. Oh, that's gross. No, that's not working yet. I gotta keep working on that. And this time, Ollie just very quietly, not trying to hide exactly, but not trying to be noticed. Ollie's good at that. There's levels of hiding, and sometimes you don't have to hide. You just gotta not call attention to yourself. To where when the guy, looked up from his attempt at magic, he realized that Ollie was standing right there and didn't even know how long Ollie had been standing there. He said, oh, hi, sorry, I was working on something. Hi, working in my shop. Is there anything in particular you're looking for? I said, well, sir, you're Norman, right? And he said, yeah. Norman was a muscular guy, about 5'10". He was wearing a long sleeve shirt, with a short sleeve shirt over it, cargo pants, and running shoes. I said, Norman, My name's Ollie the Octopus. I'm a private eye, and I'm here to get that wand back to its rightful owner. Everyone said, well, I can't pretend like you don't know what's going on here. You saw me with the wand. I don't know how long you were standing there, but you saw the whole thing, didn't you? And I said, yeah, I did. I said, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Humans don't think of ourselves as being able to do magic, but there's some magic in humans, too. If I had a lot of time, I could probably do some cool stuff with this wand, but yeah, no, I'll give it back to you to give back to him. But tell him that he needs to get his spells under control. It's really causing a problem down here. I know he thinks he never misses, but I'm always coming down and finding stuff transformed into weird stuff. Blueberries turned giant. A box of baking soda turned into a statue of a baker. It's just a problem for the business. And he's renting up there. He's paying his rent. I'm paying my rent. We got to figure something better out. And I said, all right, maybe we can set up, a meeting between you two or something. I said, yeah, and honestly, could you also tell him I say I'm sorry? I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have swiped his wand. That was pushing it too far. I said, all right, I'll let him know. So, as it happened, Ollie was then, of course, just downstairs from his client's house. So he just went kind of straight upstairs and rung the doorbell. His client was there. They saw the wand in Ollie's tentacle. And said, oh, you did it. You did it. Hooray. And he grabbed the wand and said, oh, it feels so much better to have it back. I know I can get back to doing my normal kind of fairy stuff. Thank you, Ollie. I'll send your fee over this afternoon. I said, don't even ask who took it. I said, oh, well, I assumed that you got it back from Jimmy. I said, no, Jimmy didn't have anything to do with it. It was your downstairs neighbor, Norman. I said, Norman? Oh, man. I knew he was kind of mad at me. I didn't think he'd take it that far. I said, well, he actually told me to, pass along his apologies. He said that was taking it too far, and he's sorry. But that he needs you to take more care with your spells because he's been finding stuff in his shop transformed. I said, oh, all right. Yeah. You know what? Are you going back down that way? Well, I said, yeah, I'm going to pass through that way on my way out. I said, do you want to tell him, I'm going to go, you can get a carpet made by fairies that'll block most fairy magic. I'm going to go get a carpet, a magic blocking carpet, and I'll practice on the carpet. And that'll probably stop anything else from weird happening in his shop. Oh, I said, all right, that sounds like a good solution. So Ollie went down to the shop and passed the message on, and the shopkeeper said, gave Ollie his thanks and asked Ollie if he wanted a cup of coffee to go, and Ollie said, sure. And as Ollie walked out of the shop with his coffee, and it was good coffee, I thought, well, this is one of the weirder ones, but it feels like every time I say that, the next one's going to be weirder. And that is Ollie and the story of the missing wand.